Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to start a brand new series and we're going to focus on the lowest part of the body and go more into the tibialis muscle. Now most people aren't that familiar with what the tibialis muscle does, and it's the one that is wrapped around the side of your ankles and it goes up to the side of your calves. This muscle is mainly responsible for shock absorption, and it's the biggest reason why most people get shin splints. If the tibialis muscle is not firing or it's not flexible enough, then it's not doing its job and is unable to take the shock of the impact of the heel landing on the ground when you're running or if you're walking long distances. So in this video, we're going to focus on how to open up the tibialis muscle and go into exercises that will allow us to lengthen it and also strengthen it as well. Now there's a really interesting correlation between the tib muscle and the tightness of the ankles. So usually speaking, if you've got tight ankles, you'll probably have a lack of activity in the tib muscle, or you'll find a strong amount of tightness in the tibs as well. Now if you've got really tight tibs, and especially if they're inactive, then strengthening is probably not the first thing we want to do. We first want to go into exercises that will allow us to switch the tib muscles on. Then we'll focus on lengthening the end range of the tibs. And then finally, we'll work on an exercise that will allow us to strengthen the tibs as well. All right, so the first thing we'll do is stretch out the muscles around the ankles, and this will also floss the sciatic nerve that runs down the entire leg. And if this is the first time you're experiencing the stretch in the tibs, this is definitely going to wake you up. All right, so we're going to grab ourselves a yoga block. Ideally, a soft one is best for this exercise, but if you don't have these, feel free to use the cork ones as well. So we're going to place the block down in front of us in a vertical position. We want to line the feet up on the halfway point of the block. Then we're going to pick a foot and we're going to turn our foot internally, place the balls of the feet on the block, and then place the heel down as well at the same time. Now for those of you that have got tight ankles, you're probably going to struggle to keep the heel on the ground and the balls of the feet on the block. So feel free to move the position around so then the heel touches the ground, and you only really need to place the ball of the foot or the first toe on the block to start the activation of the exercise. From here, we're going to roll the ankle out down towards the ground, and then I want you to go into a forward fold. So we're going to bring ourselves down towards the ground. So immediately you're going to feel a stretch going up the side of the ankle and going into the tibs. And then the first movement is we're going to roll that ankle out 10 times. Go nice and easy with this. And as the ankle starts to warm up, you can push it a little deeper. Now you're going to feel this weird sensation going up the leg, which is basically the nerve floss. Good, once you've done that, you can shake the leg off. And we're going to go into movement number 2. So again, we place the foot back on top of the block, we roll the ankle out, and then we're going to try and draw the infinity sign or the X shape as we're looking down towards the ground. So the bigger the X or the infinity sign is, the stronger you're going to feel this going up the leg. And then for the final movement, keep the ankle rolled out, and using the same leg, we're going to try and draw circles. So 10 circles clockwise, and then 10 circles anti-clockwise. Good, once you finish that, you can shake your leg off, and we're going to do the same thing on the opposite leg. Now this exercise is really amazing for anyone that has sciatic nerve pain. So basically this will also floss out any of the tension in the glutes, the lower back, and the hamstrings. Now the really cool thing about this nerve floss exercise is not only does it affect the ankles and the tibs, but you'll also feel a lot more comfortable in the deep part of a forward fold. So if you go into a forward fold, just test out how that feels and how deep you can go. And then, if you retest that out after you've done the floss, you'll see that the sensation in the hamstrings will feel completely different. You'll feel a lot more comfortable and you'll be able to go a lot deeper. Now here's a couple of tips for this nerve floss. First one is if you're struggling to get the heel down and keep the balls of the feet on the block, feel free to raise the heel off the ground a tiny bit. So you can use a folded up towel or even a folded up yoga mat just to place underneath the heel and to give you that extra height on the heel. This is mainly for people that are really tight around the ankles. Now the second tip is we're going to try and keep that leg that's on the block as straight as possible. So the straighter your leg is, the stronger you're going to feel this around the ankles and going up into the tibs. However, depending on the flexibility of your ankles, some of you may need to come a bit more upright in that forward fold. So feel free to hold on to a yoga block or a parallel just in front of you so you feel a lot more stable in that forward fold position. And the final tip is to try and keep your hips as square as possible. Now what you'll notice after each variation is your hips will want to come out of that squared position. So try your best to try and square the hips up before you go into the next variation of the movements. Okay, for the next exercise, we're going to try and switch on the tibs by curling the toes under. So what I want you to do is you're going to go into a Japanese seated position, and then we're going to try and curl the toes under and then sit back on the heels. Now if you've got tight quads, you're going to find trying to sit your bottom down on your heels is going to be quite difficult. So if that's the case, feel free to place a bolster or a yoga block or even a rolled up yoga mat underneath this area here. So just underneath your bottom, and then that way you can stay comfortable in that position. Or alternatively, you can check out the link above me, and that will give you a stretch that will help you to open out the quads. Now whilst we're in this position, we want to do a few checks before we get into the stretch. So the first thing is to look down at the toes and make sure the weight is going towards the outside toe, so the small toe side of the foot. Now if it isn't, we can just separate the legs a tiny bit more, and then using our hands, you can push the heels outwards. So you're pushing away from your body, and that will shift the weight towards the small toe side of the foot. The second thing is we want to make sure that the balls of the feet are close to the ground. Now, depending on the flexibility of your toes, some of you are going to really struggle with this. So the alternative is to place a yoga block or a bolster or something that will elevate the knees. And then that way the weight is back on the balls of the feet. All right, so the first thing we want to do is place our hands next to the side of the knees. And you'll notice straight away that this will take some of the stress off the side of your tibs and your toes. So from here, we're just going to rock the hips side to side. So rolling from one foot to the other foot. And we're going to aim for anything between 10 to 12 repetitions. Good, once we've done that, we're going to try and come a bit more upright, and we're just going to passively hold this stretch for about a minute. Now again, if this starts to feel really uncomfortable, feel free to shift the weight forward and take some of the stress off the toes. So as you're holding this, you're going to start to feel that really deep burn in the side of your tibs. Good, once we've done that, we're going to slowly pull ourselves out. And then this is the most important thing, that you sit back on your bottom, and then very slowly, you're going to curl the toes and flex them using your hand. We can also do a contraction once we finish the 1 minute hold. So for that, we're going to go back into that position, and then very gently, you're going to push the toes into the ground. Hold that for 5 seconds. Good, relax the contraction. Take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, see if you can slide the knees forward a tiny bit. And what you'll notice is the toes will start to curl more. This is going to bring on a much stronger sensation in the tibs. Pull yourself out. Again, curl the toes under, and we're done with that stretch. Now we can repeat that contraction again a couple of times to help us go deeper, but generally speaking, for most people, 1 or 2 contractions will be more than enough. Now for the bonus part of this exercise, we can go into an elevated form of the Japanese seated position and place a yoga block underneath the toes, which will give us a much deeper sensation on the side of our tibs as we sit our weight down onto the heels. Now I've gone into a lot more detail on this stretch in a previous video, so if you want to go check that out, the link is above me. But for the purpose of this exercise, we're just going to rest in that position and hold that for 30 to 60 seconds. Good, once we're done with that, we're going to stand up and shake the legs off. Now here's a couple of interesting things you'll notice about this exercise if you're paying attention. First of all, because the intensity is quite high on the tibs and the toes, you may have not noticed that you're probably also getting a stretch on the inside part of the arch of your foot. So this exercise is going to allow you to restore the strength and the suppleness in the arch of the foot. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this video. Try these exercises out and let me know how they go for you. Now, if you stay consistent with these exercises and do them 2 to 3 times a week, you'll see a massive reduction in the amount of shin splints you'll get over the course of 3 to 4 weeks. Now, not only will this benefit for people that have got shin splints, but if you're someone that does sports that require sudden shifts of directions, you'll feel completely different around the ankle joint, especially for those of you that get strains and sprains quite often. Let me know if you want me to create a video in the future highlighting the benefits of having strong and supple ankles and tibs. All right. I shall see you in the next one. Done.